The morning sun glinted off the metal towers of the academy, casting long shadows across the training grounds. Aaron stood at the edge of the practice field, his hands gripping the controls of a sleek mechasuit. Around him, the other cadets moved with precision and confidence. Every step, every calculation seemed effortless for them. For Aaron it was different. His hands shook slightly and his heart pounded in his chest. Today was another trial and he already knew what the whispers would say. "Watch the weakling again," a cadet sneered from across the field. A ripple of laughter followed. Aaron felt his cheeks burn, but he forced himself to focus. He adjusted the suit settings, trying to steady his breath. The trial required navigating a complex obstacle course, with walls that shifted, platforms that moved, and energy barriers that appeared without warning. The goal was simple: reach the end without error. For most it was challenging but manageable. For Aaron it had always been impossible. As he moved forward, the suit sensors flickered. A platform tilted under his weight, sending him sliding. He corrected quickly, but another obstacle came too fast. He miscalculated and the suit slammed into a barrier, sparks flying. A loud buzzer sounded, signaling failure. The cadets laughed again and a few shook their heads in mock sympathy. Aaron's hands clenched the controls. He had failed again just like every other time. Aaron's parents watched from the stands, pride and worry mixed in their eyes. They had always believed in him even when others mocked. But today even they could feel the sting of embarrassment. The academy was known for producing elite pilots and warriors, and their son had become a source of whispered ridicule. "Keep your chin up, Aaron," his mother called softly, but her voice carried little comfort. The next trial involved strategy simulations. Aaron entered a large room filled with holographic screens and miniature battlefields. The task was to manage resources, deploy units, and anticipate enemy moves. He studied the maps carefully, moving his units with precision. But the simulations required split-second decisions and intuition that did not come naturally to him. When an unexpected attack appeared, he hesitated, trying to recalculate. The result was chaos. His units fell one by one, and the simulation ended in defeat. "Another failure," someone muttered behind him. A group of cadets laughed again. Aaron felt the familiar mix of shame and frustration. He had tried every method he knew, every technique taught by the instructors, yet failure clung to him like a shadow. That evening, while the others celebrated small victories or rested, Aaron left the academy quietly. He wandered toward the outskirts of the training grounds, where the land grew rocky and wild. He had heard rumors of an ancient cave beyond the cliffs, a place untouched for centuries. Some said it held old technology left behind by a civilization long gone. Others dismissed it as legend. Aaron did not care about the warnings or the legends. He only wanted a place where he could think, away from mocking voices and impossible expectations. The path was difficult, filled with jagged rocks and steep inclines. Aaron moved carefully, relying on both the training he had received and his own observations. He reached the cave entrance just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape. The cave yawned before him, dark and mysterious, but he felt a pull, a strange curiosity that outweighed his fear. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of minerals. Bioluminescent crystals grew from the walls, casting a faint, pale light. Aaron moved deeper, examining the strange formations. He noticed strange markings on the walls, etched in patterns he did not understand. His heart raced with excitement. Here, in this quiet and forgotten place, he could explore, learn, and perhaps discover something no one else had. Deeper into the cave he found an enormous chamber. At its center lay a massive, dormant machine, larger than any mechasuit he had ever seen. Its design was alien, unlike anything recorded in the Academy's archives. Panels and circuits glimmered faintly as if waiting. Aaron felt a strange connection, a sense that this machine was somehow meant to be discovered, somehow waiting for him. He approached cautiously, hands brushing over the cool surface. Strange symbols glowed faintly under his touch, and he felt a subtle vibration through his fingers. It was powerful, ancient, and mysterious. Aaron could not understand it, but he sensed that this place held answers far beyond the Academy and its trials. As he examined the machine, he thought about the day's failures. The ridicule, the mockery, the whispers, they all faded in comparison to the feeling of discovery. Perhaps failure had led him here, to this moment, to this machine. Perhaps his inability to succeed in the Academy was preparing him for something far greater, something no one could have predicted. Aaron stayed in the chamber long after night had fallen, studying the symbols, touching the panels, and imagining possibilities. Outside, the stars shone over the cliffs, indifferent to the struggles of a single boy. Inside, however, Aaron felt a spark, hope, curiosity, and determination that no ridicule could extinguish. He knew one thing with certainty: this was only the beginning. The academy had failed to measure his potential, and his peers had mocked what they did not understand. But here, in this quiet, forgotten place, Aaron felt the first real stirrings of power and purpose. Somewhere in the ancient machine, a secret waited, and he would uncover it, no matter the cost. The night grew deeper, and Aaron finally rested near the glowing crystals, hands brushing the alien panels, thoughts racing with possibilities. Tomorrow he would return to the academy and they would continue to mock him. But inside he carried a secret, a promise of discovery, and the faint, thrilling sense that failure had not been the end. It had been the start. Aaron returned to the cave at first light, the glow of the crystals illuminating his path. The night had been quiet, but his mind was full of thoughts about the enormous machine he had discovered. He had barely touched its surface before, and now he wanted to explore more, to understand its purpose and the strange energy that hummed faintly beneath his fingertips. Every step into the cave felt like stepping into a story older than the academy, older than the planet itself. The tunnel narrowed as he went deeper, the walls glittering with pale crystal light. Strange markings ran along the stone, etched in patterns that seemed almost alive. Aaron traced his fingers over them carefully. Some symbols resembled circuitry, others strange alien writing. He could not read them, but he sensed they were instructions or perhaps warnings. The air smelled faintly metallic, and a subtle vibration ran under his feet, growing stronger with every step. Finally he reached the hidden chamber. It was immense, larger than any hall in the academy, with a domed ceiling that reflected the light of the crystals like stars. In the center lay the ancient weapon, dormant yet imposing. Its surface shimmered with faint energy lines, and massive mechanisms rested silently, waiting. Aaron's heart pounded. The scale of the machine was breathtaking. This was no ordinary weapon. It was something from legends, from the oldest stories of war and power, long forgotten. Aaron circled the weapon cautiously, observing its design. It was unlike anything the academy had ever recorded. Panels shifted slightly as he approached, responding subtly to his presence. He noticed a core in the center of the machine, a glowing chamber surrounded by intricate conduits. The markings on the walls seemed to converge there, as if directing attention to the heart of the weapon. Aaron felt a strange pull toward it, a magnetic curiosity that both fascinated and frightened him. He knelt beside the core, examining it closely. Strange glyphs covered the surface, and faint pulses of light ran along the conduits, almost like a heartbeat. Aaron touched the glyphs gently. Nothing happened at first, but a subtle warmth spread through his fingertips. It was almost as if the weapon recognized him, or at least responded to his presence. He stepped back and tried a few gestures, tapping patterns from the markings, moving panels, and observing reactions. Sparks of light flickered here and there, but the machine remained dormant. Aaron paused, thinking about what he had learned at the academy. All the trials had emphasized strength, speed, and precision. But the machine required something different. Patience. Observation. A willingness to learn rather than force. He realized that his failures at the academy, the ridicule and mockery, had prepared him in a way no one else could understand. He had learned to watch, to think, and to approach challenges calmly. He spent hours in the chamber, tracing conduits, examining panels, and studying the symbols. Slowly he began to recognize patterns, how energy flowed along certain paths, how the glyphs seemed to respond to touch, and how alignment mattered more than force. It was delicate, precise work requiring focus and calm. Aaron felt a thrill. For the first time he was succeeding in something without the need for raw power. This was a test of mind, observation, and intuition. As he explored, Aaron noticed that some of the glyphs had small grooves, almost like channels for liquid. He wondered if it was a conductor for some substance, perhaps a coolant or an energy medium. Tentatively he tested the idea, tracing his fingers along the grooves. The energy pulsed faintly, like a whisper of life, and he felt a strange resonance in his veins. He had the feeling that the machine was reacting to him, testing him as he tested it. Outside, the wind howled over the cliffs, but inside the chamber, time felt different. Hours passed unnoticed as Aaron worked methodically, piecing together the alien logic of the machine. He realized that the ancient weapon was waiting for something unique, something it had not sensed for centuries. A thought struck him. Was it waiting for someone who had failed in the traditional sense? Someone overlooked? He felt a strange connection, as if the machine knew his story, understood his repeated failures. By evening, Aaron had explored every corner of the chamber. The weapon remained dormant, but he had learned much: how its circuits were connected, how the energy flowed, and how delicate and responsive it was. He felt a mixture of frustration and excitement. The answers were close, just beyond reach, like a puzzle waiting for the final piece. As he prepared to leave for the night, Aaron noticed a small nick on his hand from a sharp edge of the core. A bead of blood formed and dripped onto the surface of the ancient weapon. The moment it touched the metal, a faint hum ran through the chamber. Lights flickered along the conduits, tracing paths Aaron had not noticed before. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it made his pulse quicken. Something had reacted. Aaron stared in awe. His failures, his patience, and now a simple accident, his blood, seemed to have done something the others could not. The machine responded in a way that hinted at life, or at least intelligence. He realized that his journey was far from over. This was only the beginning. The cave, the chamber, and the ancient weapon held secrets that would change everything. That night, as he rested near the glowing crystals, Aaron reflected on what he had learned. The academy had judged him, mocked him, and measured him by the wrong standards. But here, in the quiet chamber, he was discovering his true potential. Failure had not been the end, it had been a path, guiding him to this moment. And soon he sensed the ancient weapon would reveal its full power. Outside, stars shone over the cliffs, indifferent to human struggles, yet for Aaron the night felt alive with possibility. He had found a hidden chamber, a dormant weapon, and the first hint of destiny waiting in his blood. Tomorrow he would return, and the adventure would continue, leading him closer to the awakening of something unimaginable. The cave was silent except for the faint hum of the ancient weapon. Aaron knelt beside the core, studying the glowing conduits that pulsed faintly in the dim light of the crystals. He had returned early, eager to understand more, to explore every inch of the mysterious machine. His fingers traced the symbols again, testing connections, trying to see patterns no one else had noticed. He could feel a strange energy under his skin, like the machine was waiting, listening, responding subtly to his presence. As he leaned closer, his hand brushed against a sharp edge on the core. A small cut opened on his palm and blood dripped onto the metal surface. Aaron froze for a moment, staring at the red bead on the silver lines. Something about the drop made the air in the chamber shimmer. The conduits began to glow brighter, spreading light across the machine in intricate patterns. The hum grew louder, resonant, vibrating through the floor, the walls, and Aaron's chest. The moment the blood touched the core, the ancient weapon seemed to awaken. Panels shifted, mechanical arms extending and retracting smoothly. Lights traced along the energy pathways like living veins. The machine's movements were deliberate, intelligent, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment for centuries. Aaron stepped back slightly, awed and fearful. He realized this was not an ordinary weapon. It was alive in some way, connected to something beyond ordinary understanding. Aaron instinctively raised his hands, unsure if the machine would harm him. Instead, it responded to his presence, glowing brighter where his fingers had touched. The hum formed a pattern, almost like a pulse, in sync with his heartbeat. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The cave felt alive, the crystals vibrating in harmony with the weapon. Aaron realized that his blood had not just triggered the machine, it had awakened it. He moved closer cautiously, observing the massive arms and panels shifting. Energy swirled along the conduits, forming streams that danced across the floor. Small holographic symbols appeared above the core, flickering and changing as if communicating with him. Aaron studied them carefully, following patterns he could just barely understand. He felt a strange connection to the machine, a sense that it recognized him, trusted him, even though he had failed every test at the academy. The realization hit him. This weapon was waiting for someone unique, someone who had failed by ordinary measures, someone overlooked by tradition. His repeated failures had not been weaknesses, they had been preparation. Patience, observation, and the ability to stay calm under pressure were exactly what the machine required. Aaron's blood carried a rare trait that resonated with the weapon, and now it was alive because of him. A sudden vibration ran through the cave as the weapon powered up further. Energy arcs leaped from the conduits, forming a protective field around the core. Aaron felt the power surging around him, not violent but controlled, as if the machine itself were learning, adapting, and aligning with him. He raised a hand and the arcs of energy seemed to respond, moving in patterns that mirrored his gestures. The ancient weapon had become an extension of him. Outside the chamber, the wind rattled the rocks as if the planet itself acknowledged the awakening. Aaron could feel the power in his veins, a pulse that matched the rhythm of the weapon. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. He had always been mocked, ridiculed for his failures, but now he held a force that no cadet, no instructor could have imagined. He understood that his life had been leading to this moment, a moment where everything he had endured mattered. The machine hummed louder, projecting a faint holographic map above the core. Symbols indicated possible locations, energy sources, and threats. Aaron studied them carefully, realizing that the weapon was not just powerful, it was intelligent. It could strategize, plan, and respond. He felt a surge of confidence, understanding that he could now face challenges that had once seemed impossible. The failures of the past had given him patience, focus, and insight, the very qualities needed to control this awakening weapon. Hours passed as Aaron experimented with the machine. He learned to control small movements, activating panels and energy conduits with thought and intent. Each successful attempt reinforced the connection. He understood that the ancient weapon had chosen him, not for strength or speed, but for his ability to think, observe, and adapt. The irony was not lost on him. What had been mocked by others was exactly what made him capable now. As night fell outside, Aaron stepped back to observe the fully awakened weapon. Its energy pulsed rhythmically, panels shifting in precise harmony. The cave glowed with the light of ancient power, and Aaron felt a quiet pride mixed with awe. The machine had awakened, but so had he. He was no longer the boy who failed every test. He was the one who had unlocked a force older than the academy, older than civilization itself. The hum of the weapon filled the chamber, and Aaron realized that the true journey was just beginning. This power would change everything: his life, the academy, and perhaps the planet itself. The failures that had defined him were now the foundation of his greatest strength. He had been chosen by fate, or perhaps by the weapon itself, to wield a force no one else could. For the first time, Aaron smiled. He had discovered something extraordinary, something that no one at the academy could mock or control. His blood had awakened the ancient weapon, and with it, a future full of possibilities lay before him. He knew challenges would come, enemies would notice, and dangers awaited, but he was ready. For the first time he understood his true power, not from tests or praise, but from perseverance, patience, and the awakening of something far beyond ordinary understanding. Aaron spent the next days returning to the hidden chamber, learning to control the ancient weapon. Each time he entered, the machine responded more smoothly, almost as if it remembered him. Panels shifted without hesitation, energy streams followed his gestures, and small holographic projections showed patterns and movements he could manipulate. The weapon was not just a tool, it was alive, intelligent, and aligned with his thoughts. At first, the control was awkward. Aaron tried moving the weapon's massive arms, and sparks flew in uncontrolled bursts. Panels shifted too quickly or too slowly, and the hum of energy sometimes became deafening. He would step back, take a deep breath, and try again. Every attempt taught him something new: how to anticipate the machine's responses, how to stay calm under the force of its energy, and how to match his intentions with its motions. Slowly he gained mastery. The academy's instructors had dismissed him as hopeless, but now he felt a confidence he had never known. The ancient weapon amplified his thoughts and actions, but it also demanded focus, patience, and clarity. Aaron realized that his failures had prepared him for this. Every misstep, every mockery, every trial he had failed had taught him resilience. Here those qualities mattered more than skill or speed. One evening as he practiced, alarms sounded from the valley below. A fleet of enemy drones, long thought inactive, was moving toward the planet. They were remnants of a forgotten war, seeking the ancient weapon for themselves. Aaron felt his pulse quicken. He had anticipated threats, but this was real, immediate danger. The machine hummed in response, lights shifting to highlight external sensors. It was aware of the incoming attack, ready to respond, but it needed him to guide it. Aaron activated the weapon fully. Its massive arms extended, energy shields flared, and the hum grew into a resonant roar that vibrated through the cave. The enemy drones appeared above the cliffs, sleek, fast, and armed with weapons capable of tearing apart the academy's defenses. Aaron took a deep breath. This was his first true test. Not a simulation, not a trial, but a real battle with lives at stake. He moved the weapon carefully, matching gestures with energy pulses. Shields rose to intercept incoming fire, and energy streams shot toward drones attempting to penetrate the defenses. The machine responded as if it anticipated his thoughts, forming barriers and launching attacks in precise coordination. Aaron felt exhilaration and fear, but he focused on one thing: control. Every movement had to be deliberate, every decision clear. The enemy drones adapted, shifting formations, targeting weaknesses. Aaron realized that the ancient weapon was teaching him as much as he was controlling it. He learned to predict energy flows, to manipulate power with intention, and to remain calm under pressure. Each enemy strike was countered, each movement anticipated. He was no longer a boy who failed tests. He was a pilot, a strategist, and a partner to a weapon older than memory. From the academy, instructors and students watched as the battle unfolded. They could not believe their eyes. Aaron, once ridiculed for his failures, commanded a force beyond imagination. The weapon moved like an extension of his body, responding instantly to his thoughts. Where once there had been hesitation and doubt, now there was focus, clarity, and unstoppable determination. Hours passed in a tense struggle. Enemy drones attacked in waves, but Aaron remained steady. The ancient weapon adapted to every assault, striking with precision, shielding with unerring timing. Aaron discovered new abilities within the machine. Energy pulses that could disable multiple drones at once, adaptive armor that hardened where impacts were strongest, and strategic projections that allowed him to foresee enemy movements. Each victory built his confidence further. Eventually, the last of the drones fell, deactivated or destroyed. The valley was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ancient weapon winding down. Aaron stepped back, breathing heavily, feeling a mixture of triumph and awe. He had faced real conflict, controlled an ancient, intelligent machine, and survived. He had transformed from the boy who failed every test into a force capable of changing the outcome of battle. His parents arrived shortly after, running to him with worry and relief. They had heard of the attack in the miracle weapon. Seeing Aaron in command, perfectly aligned with the ancient machine, they realized the depth of his strength. It was not just power or skill that mattered, it was patience, intelligence, and the courage to embrace what others overlooked. The instructors from the academy arrived next, cautiously respectful. They had underestimated Aaron, mocked him, and judged him by traditional measures. Now they watched in silence, unable to deny his capabilities. The boy they had dismissed had awakened something ancient, mastered it, and used it to protect the academy and the planet. Aaron stood beside the weapon, feeling its hum resonate through him. He knew the battle had been only the first challenge. The awakening of the ancient weapon had drawn attention. Enemies would continue to come. But he also knew that he had found his place, his purpose. His failures had led him here to mastery and recognition. And now he could face whatever came next with courage, intelligence, and the power of a weapon older than history. As night fell, Aaron and the weapon rested, their connection deep and unbroken. He looked out over the cliffs, understanding that the world beyond the academy had changed. He had changed. The boy who failed every test was gone. In his place stood a human capable of mastering forces beyond comprehension, ready for the next trial that awaited. The morning after the battle, the valley was quiet, but the air buzzed with anticipation. News of the ancient weapon's awakening and Aaron's mastery had spread across the academy and beyond. Cadets whispered in awe, instructors murmured with respect, and even the planet's council began to take notice. Aaron stood beside the weapon in the hidden chamber, the hum of energy filling the air like a heartbeat. He had learned to move with it, to anticipate its responses, and to harness its incredible power. His parents arrived first, faces a mixture of relief and pride. They had worried for him, feared he would be overwhelmed by the weapon's power or attacked by enemies again. But seeing Aaron calm and confident, controlling the machine with precise thought and intention, they knew their son had grown beyond their expectations. His mother placed a hand on his shoulder, and his father nodded silently, understanding that their boy had become more than just a cadet. He had become a legend. The academy's instructors followed, cautiously stepping into the chamber. For years they had judged Aaron by traditional standards: speed, strength, precision. They had mocked him, assumed he lacked the potential to succeed. Now they could not deny the truth. Aaron had mastered an ancient weapon thought impossible to control, demonstrating intelligence, patience, and courage beyond any test. They bowed their heads slightly, acknowledging that the boy they had dismissed had achieved what none of them could. Aaron felt a mix of humility and pride. He did not seek recognition, but he understood its importance. People needed to see that success was not only measured by conventional tests, but by perseverance, creativity, and the courage to pursue what others could not. His failures had taught him lessons no classroom or academy could provide. Each mistake, each moment of ridicule, had guided him to this chamber, to the awakening of the weapon, and to the demonstration of his true potential. The council arrived next, observing the weapon and Aaron with cautious fascination. They asked questions, curious about the machine's origins, its capabilities, and the implications of its activation. Aaron explained what he could, describing how the machine responded to his presence, how his blood had awakened it, and how he had learned to communicate with it through thought and intention. They listened, impressed by both the machine's power and the boy's insight. The ancient weapon pulsed gently beside him, its energy streams forming patterns in the air, almost like a silent conversation. Aaron realized that it was not just a tool of war but a partner, an entity capable of thought, judgment, and strategy. Its awakening had changed the balance of power on the planet, and with careful guidance, it could protect the Academy, the planet, and perhaps even distant worlds. In the following days, Aaron worked to integrate the ancient weapon with the Academy's systems. He trained cadets who showed potential beyond traditional measures, teaching them that intelligence, observation, and perseverance were just as important as skill and speed. Slowly the Academy changed. Mockery and ridicule gave way to respect and encouragement. Students who had once feared failure began to embrace it as a stepping stone toward discovery, inspired by Aaron's journey. Aaron's reputation spread beyond the Academy. Scholars, historians, and engineers came to study the machine and learn from him. They marveled at how a boy once mocked for his failures had unlocked secrets of ancient technology, and how his insight had awakened a weapon older than civilization itself. Aaron remained humble, teaching that greatness was not measured by perfection, but by the willingness to persist, learn, and adapt. One evening, Aaron returned to the hidden chamber alone. The weapon pulsed gently, responding to his presence as always. He studied the symbols and conduits, continuing to refine his connection, understanding that mastery was not a single achievement but a lifelong process. The cave had become a place of discovery, a reminder that failure was not the end, but a path to something extraordinary. As he stepped outside, the stars shone over the cliffs, reflecting in the quiet waters below. Aaron looked out over the horizon, thinking of all the possibilities the future held. The Academy had judged him wrongly, the world had mocked him, but he had found his purpose. His journey was far from over. The weapon, the lessons, and his unique abilities were tools to explore new challenges, protect others, and push the boundaries of knowledge and courage. The planet's council eventually honored him officially, recognizing his achievements and contributions. Statues and records commemorated the boy who had failed every test yet awakened an ancient weapon through patience, courage, and insight. His story became legend, not only among cadets and scholars but among ordinary citizens, who saw that greatness could come from unexpected places. Aaron's parents watched their son with pride, no longer worried about failure or ridicule. They understood that the path had been difficult, that their son had endured more than most, but the result was extraordinary. Aaron had proven that determination, intelligence, and heart could awaken forces thought impossible, and that every setback was simply preparation for the moment when potential could be fully realized. Standing beside the ancient weapon one last time that night, Aaron placed his hand on its core. The energy pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, and he smiled. He had begun as a boy who failed every test, mocked by peers and doubted by mentors. Now he was a guardian, a teacher, and a legend. His journey had turned failure into triumph, ridicule into recognition, and fear into courage. The hidden chamber, once silent and forgotten, now held the story of a human boy who had dared to persevere. Aaron's legacy was not only the awakening of an ancient weapon but also the inspiration he provided to countless others. Every failure, every moment of doubt, every challenge had led to this. And as the stars shone above, he knew the future was vast, full of discovery and entirely his to shape. The boy who failed every test had finally been recognized. His blood had awakened an ancient weapon, but his heart, courage, and mind had awakened a new path for humanity itself. And that path would be remembered long after the echoes of mockery had faded into history.